Hi, welcome to the first question and answer session with business continuity consultant Steve Dance. I'm joined by Steve and my colleague Chris Mearing, and today we'll be covering three questions that have been submitted by either CI continuity customers or LinkedIn users for us to put to Steve to get his insight on the topic. So, Chris, I'll hand over to you to ask the first question.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Steve, we had a question in from an IT manager of a large housing association. He's asking, how do you balance flexibility and structure in a business continuity plan to ensure it remains relevant over time?
That's a good question, and it's actually something a lot of organizations struggle with. They produce a plan, and whilst it meets their requirements as it falls off the press, as it were, over time the plan decays, and it can sometimes be a bit cumbersome to keep it up to date. What we've tended to do when we've been working with our clients is to adopt a process, an approach of designing the plan for purpose. Because if you think about it, the business continuity plan actually covers quite a lot of things. It covers your action plans. It may well cover your risk assessments, your business impact assessment, etc. And it may also specify a number of other things, such as your policies and overall capabilities. Now, that's actually quite a large document to keep control of, particularly when there are a number of people in the organization who may provide some input to it. So what we've tended to do in this approach of design for purpose is we've broken things down. So there is a specific format for things like scope, priorities, and capabilities. And that's where we've considered the scope of the plan, that is, what things must our plan need to cover? What are our operational priorities in the event of a disruption? And what is our current capability of meeting those? And that is actually a collaborative kind of document, because you're drawing in information from the whole of the organization in terms of, as I say, what is important and what do you actually need to meet your priorities in the event of a disruption, such as IT recovery, for instance, alternate working arrangements, and a number of other issues, logistics, etc. So what we then tend to do is from the scope and priorities, just to say, well, these are our priority activities. It might be order management, it could be logistics, it could be customer support. It all depends, obviously, on the nature of the organization. And then we would ripple that down so that each individual function of the organization has got its own action plan. So we've got our scope, priorities, and capabilities, and then we've broken that down to say, well, these are our priorities. What is it we need to do, and what is it we need to have in place to recover those priorities, and who needs to have a plan in place to achieve that? So that really covers, if you like, the action part of the plan. But then again, you also have to take into consideration that you're going to be audited from time to time, and auditors will want to see evidence of a process. And I think we're going to come on to this issue a little later into this presentation. But the stuff that holds the plan together, such as the business continuity organization, etc., that needs to be documented separately. It's not something that you want to pick up during a major incident. It needs to be very concise. It needs to be a narrative document that explains how you manage business continuity in your organization. So effectively, to keep this flexibility in the plan, you need these three main components, which is something that describes the scope, the priorities, and the capabilities of your business continuity arrangements, your action plans, which would include response and recovery plans, as well as a high-level incident management plan for the organization's leadership to adopt. And then finally, this this more or less this statement that says this is how we manage business continuity around here. So you've got something to give to a third party that they can actually read and satisfy themselves that you've got something in place, and not just action plans that aren't managed. So by doing that, we found you have actually got this flexibility to adapt. And the thing that fuels your ability to adapt is to have this business continuity management system wrapped around that. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So I won't go on that, but for now, I would say adopt those three components, document them in a format that's appropriate for the way you're going to use them. So scope, priorities, capabilities is collaborative, individual action plans that are concise and accessible during an incident, and finally, a narrative document that describes your business continuity management process.
That's brilliant, Steve. That's really insightful. So, on that then, how often would you review that? Because that sounds like a document that you wouldn't just create it, spend all the time creating it, and then leave it to gather dust in a cupboard or a shared drive somewhere. How often would you review that then?
Yeah. That again is a really good question. It's one you see a lot posted on various sites on the web. How often and when should we review our business continuity plan? I think for me the real skill in this is knowing the triggers to look for within your organization. So we touched briefly in this last question on the concept of the business continuity management system. Well, an important part of that for me is the steering group. That is the group of people. They may not necessarily have a role in incident management or in an actual recovery process. Their role is to make sure that the business continuity plan stays relevant to the organization. And it's when you think basically that your business continuity plan may no longer be relevant, or the relevance of your business continuity arrangements is diverging from the organization's requirements. That's when I would say you need to do a review. So the function of the steering group is to come together periodically and consider what's changed in the organization. So let's say they have a quarterly meeting and they might be thinking of things like, has our organization grown? Are there more people in it? Are we doing different things to what we were doing last year, last quarter? Is our organization generating a lot more information? In which case, are our backups appropriate? Are we backing up the right data? Is the volume of data we're backing up requiring us to reevaluate our backup strategies, etc.? So to answer the question of when should your business continuity plan be reviewed, the answer to that question is, well, you need to keep a finger on the pulse in what's happening with your organization via this steering group and look for change and say, well, have things changed that we need to change our sort of strategy, if you will, for business continuity? Likewise, I would also say there needs to be a frequent reevaluation of response plans at the next level. We discussed in the prior question the concept of breaking down your business continuity plan and formatting it according to requirement. The individual response plans, which are generally tend to be held at a departmental level, would need to be reviewed by the leads, the response leads for those parts of the organization. It's then you get down into the nitty gritty of saying, well, you know, from time to time, you're going to need to revisit things like, have we got the right contact details for everyone? Have their mobile phone numbers changed, etc.? Has the organization changed at the response team level? Have we got the right people in the right roles? Do they actually know they're in these roles, etc.? Have they had the training for those roles? So that will be the next level down. And that, I would say, would lend itself to a schedule. So maybe you would want to do that every 6 months or whatever. Or as part of the steering group meetings, you just might want to send out an email to say, well, we've had a look at the overall scope, priorities, etc. of the plan, and we're working on this aspect of it at the moment. Have there been any major changes in your part of the organization that we may not have picked up and that you need to think about? And then send them out a questionnaire with some bullet points of the things they need to consider. So to say how often should it be reviewed, I would say it needs to be reviewed when there is a significant change, and that is the business continuity steering group's responsibility to consider and detect those changes and respond accordingly. But at the next level down, which is the individual response plans for priority functions, those would have to be, I would say, revisited every 3 months, 6 months, but as a minimum 12 months.
Brilliant. That leads quite nicely onto our next question, actually. So the next question is, how do you make that business continuity plan, once it's created, testable and engaging for all employees, not just the leadership team or the steering group that have helped create it?
Right. Again, this actually comes down to focusing on what people's responsibilities are during a major incident. And again, you can break your testing down. And it can be quite difficult sometimes to get everyone together to do a full-blown test. It's ideal, but not always practical to do so. So what you can do in terms of making it engagement is to try and fit the tests to the role of the people. So you may want to break your test down into several levels. So one might be, well, we'll have a test of the incident management process. And this is where you might go to the organization's leadership, which is generally the most difficult people to get together. And for about an hour to say, okay, we believe that this incident is developing or has been detected. What are you going to do? What is the role of the leadership team? How will you respond? How are you going to require situational intelligence? And how are you going to mobilize the rest of the organization to respond in accordance with the actual type of incident? With the next level down, which is the response team leads, this, I would say, is you might want to adopt a slightly different approach. A lot of people rely on scenario testing. That's great, but one of the techniques I've found that is quite good is what's known as red teaming or purple teaming, where you sit people down with their plan and you challenge the assumptions of that plan. And that might be based on things like, well, we know how long it takes to recover from a cyber attack. Does your plan actually reflect the fact that you may not be able to do this activity or this activity for about 3 weeks? How would you deal with that? And likewise, you might want to do something with an extended period of premises compromise. It could be adverse weather. It could be a structural defect that's been found. But how would you then deal with a protracted denial of access to premises at the individual priority process level? There's also another useful approach that you can use, which is which people call micro simulations, where you would actually test a specific part of your business continuity plan, normally around incident notification. So every month you may just want to do a test of the incident notification system that engages the whole organization, because everyone will normally receive a notification that the business continuity plan has been invoked. So again, you're actually then engaging with the wider organization in the type of things that they are most likely to encounter during a major incident. And I think that is the key really to keeping people engaged with business continuity and the testing of the plan, is to allow them to see that they're testing something that they may well become involved with if there's a major incident. So I would say, just to close this specific question down, to keep it engaging, look at what you're asking people to do during an incident with their plans and their roles and responsibilities, and design tests around that. And if that means breaking it down a bit, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to do the enormous tests where you expect everyone in the organization or the whole business continuity organization to actually be involved. You can break it down, and that, I think, helps to make it engaging.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's very, very useful,
Okay.
and sounds sort of very, very sensible there. I had a couple of questions come in very similar, so I've sort of put them together. A big thing people ask is, what are the must-have components that you'd suggest to go into a strong BCMS?
A business continuity management system. Yeah. Well, the primary objective really of a business continuity management system is to ensure that your business continuity plan and arrangements are relevant to your organization's needs. So I would say there are a number of components that are involved in that, and I'll just run through them with you. So basically, as I say, a BCMS, it ensures that your business continuity plan remains relevant to the needs of your organization and isn't decaying as the organization changes and grows. So the real must-have components, there are a number. I mean, you would want to put a number of things in, and this is effectively, again, this narrative document that we mentioned earlier in terms of keeping your plan adaptive and flexible. You would want to maintain a responsibilities matrix, and that would be a matrix that covers all roles and responsibilities across the organization. That would include the responsibilities within the steering group and the responsibilities within the response teams and the incident management teams, to ensure that all of those roles have been defined and are actually filled by qualified people, properly qualified to do so. The next part of your BCMS should be your confirmation of capability. Now, that's often done through testing, but there are other ways of ensuring that you've got the right people and the right facilities and the right resources in place at all times. All of those things are generally held together by a thing called an assurance schedule. So these are the kind of tests, reviews, and confirmations that you would want to get at certain stages, so that you've actually got a diary of tests, reviews, and confirmations that you would be expected to do to maintain the integrity of your business continuity plan. And finally, there is a training schedule, which is making sure that everyone in the organization understands what they need to do during an incident. Now, a lot of organizations have a sort of awareness program, and they can be of varying quality. But one of the big things we see that is generally not done in organizations is the people who are actually responsible for leading responses and for managing incidents, the incident management team and the response team leads, there isn't any training for them. And these people's roles can change. People leave, they do other jobs, and they may be replaced by others. But it's also essential to ensure that these people have had training. If something's changed within the organization, how has that affected the incident response or the response and recovery process? And have we got the relevant training in place to ensure that if we do hand over in the event of a change of personnel, that the person who's taking over has been properly introduced to the roles and responsibilities that they're going to be adopted. So those are, for me, the key things within a business continuity management system. It's a responsibilities matrix, the confirmation of capability, an assurance schedule that ensures that we are comprehensively evaluating the ongoing relevance of the business continuity plan, and this ongoing training of response leads and the incident management team. On top of that, a nice dashboard can often help, just to give a quick summary of what the overall status and disposition of the business continuity management system is looking like, so that you can put a single piece of paper in front of the senior management team and they know where there are any major issues, etc. So yeah, that's what I would say are the key parts of a business continuity management system.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. And thanks for taking the time to answer some of these questions. We really appreciate sort of your insights and your expertise. If you've got this far watching, thanks for taking the time to watch the Q&A. If you found it valuable, please like, share and comment on whatever social media platform you're watching this on. And if you are looking to support your own business continuity strategy, please feel free to reach out, advice@cicontinuity.co.uk. Depending on the reaction to this, if we get a good response, we'll be back shortly to record another one with Steve. So thanks for your time, everyone. Yeah. Thanks for your time, Steve. Thanks for your time, Chris. Speak soon.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Cheers for now. Bye-bye.